Hello guys, welcome back to TFD with Cordy. Today we've got to sit down and really unpack what is happening with these WNBA CBA negotiations, because we are officially in crunch time. We are about a week away from that March 10th deadline, and it has already been made clear that if there is no handshake agreement by then, the season could be delayed, games could get cancelled, and training camps could get pushed back. And when you start talking about delays in a league that has more eyes on it than ever before, that's when things get serious. Dead serious. This is not just another routine negotiation. This is the biggest collective bargaining agreement in the history of the WNBA. There is more money on the table than these players have ever seen. There is more attention, more sponsorship, more visibility, and more pressure. And now, with only days left, both sides are finally moving a little faster than they have over the past year. About damn time. Since the last time we talked, both the Women's National Basketball Players Association and the league have submitted counter-proposals. But here's the simple breakdown. Neither side is really budging on the big stuff. They are holding tight to their core principles, gripping them like it's life or death. On the player side, they are still pushing for a gross revenue sharing model. The latest number floating around is 26% of gross revenue. They've also continued to stand firm around a salary cap that would be close to $9 million. From their perspective, the league is growing rapidly. The visibility is skyrocketing, and they want a model that reflects the full value of what they are helping to generate. And honestly, they are not wrong for feeling that way. On the league side, the response hasn't shifted much either. The WNBA is sticking to a net revenue sharing model, not gross. And in their most recent proposal, they maintained a salary cap of $75 million. That's a massive gap. When you're talking about millions of dollars separating both sides, that's not a minor disagreement. That's foundational. That's a somebody's going to be pissed type of gap. Now, to be fair, both sides have conceded on smaller issues. Housing has been a back and forth topic, and now the league has finally agreed to provide it. Exclusivity clauses were taken off the table months ago. There have been tweaks and compromises on those types of details. But when it comes to revenue sharing and the overall salary cap structure, they are still very far apart. However, there was one new wrinkle in the latest league proposal that really caught my attention. It states that players on rookie contracts who make first team or second team All-League would become eligible to sign max contracts in their fourth year. And that changes everything. Like flipping the whole damn chessboard. If you follow roster construction at all, you know that max contracts define franchises. They are not just about money. They are about commitment, identity, and long-term direction. And with this new eligibility rule, it creates a ripple effect across multiple teams. And yeah, some front offices are probably sweating right now. Let's use the Indiana Fever as an example. All of a sudden, you could potentially have two players eligible for max contracts in the same window. In 2026, both Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston could qualify for max deals depending on performance and timing. But here's the catch. Under the current cap structure being discussed, there is realistically only one max slot per team. So who do you choose? Do you go with the veteran in Kelsey Mitchell, someone who is loyal, productive, and a steady force in the league? Or do you invest in Aaliyah Boston, who is younger, still ascending, and could anchor your franchise for the next decade? That's not just basketball, that's political. And then you add another layer. Because of the new rule, Caitlin Clark would be eligible for a max contract in 2027. If you're the Fever, or honestly any franchise, she becomes the priority. She is already widely viewed as the face of the league. She moves ratings. She sells tickets. She drives national conversation. Period. If you are building around Caitlin Clark as your franchise cornerstone, you have to create cap flexibility for her. It means decisions made in 2026 could directly impact 2027. It becomes a chess match, and somebody's feelings are absolutely getting hurt in the process. And this is where things get sticky. Because while fans love the idea of stacking talent, the math doesn't always allow it. If there's only one max slot and a couple of high-tier contracts per team, that creates tension. Someone will feel undervalued. Someone will have to take less. And not every player is going to be okay with that. Let's be real. Now, to be clear, not every athlete is chasing the max contract at all costs. Some players will absolutely take a pay cut if they believe they can contend for a championship. Chemistry matters. Winning matters. Stability matters. But when you're negotiating the richest CBA in league history, and the financial gap between tiers is significant, emotions are going to run high. Very high. That's why I'm concerned about what free agency is going to look like. We are already late in the calendar. Expansion teams would typically have their rosters largely set by now. Established franchises would have a clear sense of direction. Instead, we are staring at the possibility of having just 1 week to sort out the biggest financial and structural shift this league has ever seen. That's chaos energy. And the majority of players are free agents. Multiple reports have suggested that many players are leaning towards signing one-year deals. From a business standpoint, that makes sense. If you're unsure about how stable the new structure will be, you might want flexibility. You might want to re-enter the market once things settle. But from a basketball standpoint, that worries me a lot. Short-term contracts create instability. They make it harder for teams to build continuity. Fans invest in cause, in stories, in rivalries. If half the league are on one-year deals, it becomes the Wild West. Movement isn't inherently bad. Sometimes it's exciting. But too much volatility can weaken the product on the court. Right now, the league has unprecedented momentum. New fans have arrived in waves, many drawn in by the young stars, and especially by Caitlin Clark's entrance into the league. If those fans tune in next season and see chaos instead of cohesion, that momentum could stall, and that would be a damn shame. Now, maybe this ends up being a transitional year. Maybe 2026 is messy, but 2027 becomes the true big free agency when the system stabilizes. That's possible, but it still puts pressure on this upcoming season to deliver quality basketball. No excuses. Expansion teams are also at a disadvantage here. Compared to how the Golden State Valkyries were set up with clearer timelines and structure, these new franchises are scrambling. It's hard to build fan engagement when you don't even know your roster until training camp. Fans want to buy jerseys, learn personalities, and connect with players. That connection starts months before tip-off, not weeks. Then, there's the emotional temperature of the players themselves. As we get closer to March 10th, you can see the divide. Some veterans appear willing to hold the line longer for structural change. Meanwhile, many younger players seem eager to get back on the court. They don't want to strike. They don't want delays. They just want to hoop. Simple as that. That generational difference is understandable. Younger players are at the beginning of their earning windows. They want stability, development, and visibility. Veterans might be thinking long-term about pensions, revenue percentages, and setting precedents for the next decade. Neither side is wrong, but the clock is ticking. If there's no agreement, the risk isn't just postponed games. It's lost momentum, frustrated fans, and sponsors wondering about reliability. And in a league that has worked hard to grow its footprint, timing matters big time. So here we are, 1 week, massive financial gaps, one max slot per team creating franchise-altering decisions, potentially chaotic free agency, expansion teams in limbo, younger players pushing for resolution, and veterans weighing the long-term fight. This is not just about numbers on a spreadsheet. This is about the future shape of the WNBA. It's about whether teams can retain multiple stars. It's about whether players feel properly valued in a booming era. It's about whether fans get a smooth, high-quality season or a turbulent one. Buckle up, because whether it's a breakthrough agreement or a standoff that stretches longer than anyone wants, we are about to witness one of the most pivotal moments in league history. Sportico was actually on the ground at Unrivaled during their media availability and caught up with several players for interviews. One of the names they spoke to was Paige Bueckers, and here's what she had to say. At this point, it's not really a negotiation anymore. Both sides aren't moving. So, I feel like we need to continue to have these conversations, and continue to actually have change implemented for us to move on from our stance. We, as players, don't want to strike. We want to have a season. I love playing basketball. That's all I want to do. But again, there are things that need to be handled. And we want to do it as professionals. She basically said that there hasn't been much movement from either side, which is wild this late in the game. She'd like to see both parties give a little more ground, because, at the end of the day, she just wants to have a season and get back on the court. Straight up, no fluff. On the other side of things, Natasha Cloud was also interviewed by Sportico, and here's what she had to say about where the current negotiations stand. Still not making enough. The middleman potentially still not making enough for housing to also be taken off the table. We all know this New York market and that $200,000 jump that players are going to make. The frustration and tension are clear. The clock is ticking, the stakes are enormous, and fans, players and franchises are all feeling the pressure. That's before taxes. That's before what they would have to pay for a potential housing market in New York. So, she's still focused on the middleman, the financial piece between the player and the league. She called it a starting point. She's happy the league finally came back with a proposal, but she thinks there's more to do to protect players, even with a salary bump. I find it interesting that she brought up housing, because from everything we'd previously heard, the WNBA had already agreed to handle housing accommodations. That was one of the earlier concessions that seemed resolved, or at least that's what everybody thought. So when housing is mentioned again, it makes you wonder, is there more nuance, or is it just being used as an example of overall quality of life improvements players want clarified? Because at this point, clarity shouldn't be this confusing. Then, there's the salary increase conversation. Even a $200,000 bump might not feel like enough to some players. Within the context of professional sports and league revenue growth, that makes sense. But to the average American watching at home, $200,000 is life-changing money. Optics matter. Fans are trying to understand both sides of a complex labor discussion and don't want to feel alienated. Then you had Breanna Stewart weigh in. She basically said that if you look at the union proposal and the league proposal, neither is ready to be voted on yet. Both still need negotiation up or down in several areas. Honestly, that felt like a nothing answer. Not controversial. Not bold. Just diplomatic, clean, polished, and zero fireworks. Now, when Kelsey Plum spoke, that's where it got more direct. She said flat out, "I want to play, and the players want to play. No dancing around it." She acknowledged negotiations are ongoing, and everyone is trying to get it done in a timely fashion. But she added something really important. A strike would be the worst thing for both sides, because they are in a revenue share system. No revenue means no revenue to share. Simple math, brutal reality. That point is critical because for months, many voices, including mine, have been saying how detrimental a strike would be at this moment in the league's growth. 6 months ago, when some players were publicly saying, "We'll sit out, that's fine," the tone was much harder. Suggesting a strike could hurt the league sometimes got you labeled as anti-player. The temperature was hot. But now that we're at the 11th hour, you can see the tone shifting. More players are emphasizing they want to get back on the court. There's acknowledgement this is a pivotal moment for women's basketball. And subtle cracks are showing, not in a messy way, but in how different players have different risk tolerances. Younger players feel urgency to build momentum and capitalize on visibility. Veterans are focused on long-term structural gains. Both perspectives make sense, but they don't always align perfectly. When alignment isn't perfect, tension creeps in. It's also worth remembering that Caitlin Clark said months ago that this is a monumental time for women's basketball, and they need to get back on the court for the fans. Some criticized that as anti-union sentiment. Now you're hearing similar tones from players like Kelsey Plum, Paige Bueckers, and others. We need to play. Funny how the narrative shifts when the clock is ticking. That evolution in messaging says a lot about where things stand right now. So, what do you think? Are both sides playing this the right way? Should there be more compromise? How worried are you about a potential strike? Let me know your thoughts, and don't forget to like and subscribe. From a high-level perspective, this is the biggest negotiation the WNBA has ever seen. It's not something that can be messed up. Players are fighting for what they deserve, but they need to play basketball. That's what fans crave. That's what drives revenue, excites the market, and gives fans a reason to show up. It's business. It's negotiation. There has to be compromise on both sides. We're down to the wire, and it's become really important. Obviously, I can't speak for every player, but there are clear areas to stand firm, and others where compromise makes sense.